Welcome to this comprehensive tutorial on Meta Horizon Managed Services, or HMS, designed to help you effectively manage your MetaQuest devices for educational or enterprise purposes. This video is sponsored by Dynamic Languages, a VR language learning, cultural studies, and virtual field trip app for MetaQuest. I suggest installing the free demo of Dynamic Languages available on the Meta HMS App Store. It's a great way to see HMS in action for immersive learning, and a perfect example to show your language teachers or as an employee benefit. Now let's begin with a couple of reminders and an outline of what we'll cover. In this session, we'll focus on how HMS assists organizations in adopting AR and VR solutions, particularly from a technical standpoint, such as device management and applications. This is a broad tutorial applicable to multiple organizations, so keep that in mind as we discuss features. To structure this, we'll go through several blocks. First, an overview of HMS and how it integrates with the MetaQuest ecosystem. Then, HMS support, device management and enrollment, including shared and individual modes, casting, content and app management, and finally, account management with admin roles, security and governance, and metrics and insights. With that foundation laid, let's move into the platform overview. To start, let's clarify what HMS is. Its full name is Horizon Managed Services, and it's fundamentally an MDM platform, that's mobile device management, that enables you to oversee your entire MetaQuest deployment or ecosystem. This includes not just managing the devices themselves, but also the content installed on those devices, as well as any accounts you might want to use with them. If you've ever used ManageXR or ArborXR, the Meta HMS works very similarly to those two systems. If you're wondering whether you need either of those two systems, you need to know your use case and ensure Meta HMS has all the features you need. If you do choose to manage your headsets using a third-party MDM like ArborXR and ManageXR, all of the management will be done in their platform. So you won't be using the HMS platform that you see here to manage those headsets. All of the configurations, all of the presets, all of the settings will be done over there. HMS supports every MetaQuest device currently on the market, beginning with the MetaQuest 2. So that means MetaQuest 2, MetaQuest 3, MetaQuest 3S, and MetaQuest Pro are all compatible with the platform. To enroll a device into HMS, you do need a license, but once you have that, there's no limitation. Any device can be enrolled. The device doesn't have to arrive with HMS pre-installed. You can add any device from your existing fleet into HMS. We'll cover the enrollment process soon. One major benefit of HMS is that it operates on top of the device's operating system. This means it doesn't require a separate OS version, which is advantageous for application compatibility. As you may know, MetaQuest applications utilize various SDKs provided by the operating system. And since HMS sits atop the standard OS, enrolled devices can fully leverage those SDKs and libraries. Additionally, this setup allows you to keep your devices both updated and managed simultaneously. HMS is the system for managing your MetaQuest deployments, but it's paired with the Admin Center, a web-based platform where you can view and control everything in your ecosystem. What you'll see first in the Admin Center is the Overview section, providing a high-level summary of the accounts created in your ecosystem, the devices enrolled, and how many are active, along with shortcuts to security, products, and billing. Finally, there are sections for What's New and support. The What's New area shows all the main features released on the platform, including when they were released. For each feature, there's typically a link that takes you to more details on that specific feature. This is an excellent way to stay informed about platform updates. The Support Hub is another crucial part. With HMS, dedicated support is included, meaning you can open tickets directly from the platform and receive assistance on a range of topics, spanning hardware to software. So any issues with enrolled devices can be handled through this ticketing system. The service level agreement is 24 hours, so this isn't consumer level support. It's a dedicated team for enterprise and education users. You can also get to our help center from the FAQ button. And this has sorts of great step-by-step guides on how to configure different sections of the admin center. So if you go, say, to manage accounts, you can find all sorts of things and guides in here, like how to create and manage accounts. So this is something you can run through as well. One of the most important things that you'll be doing is making sure that all of the end users within your companies have access to the headsets in a way that they require. So within the People tab, you can see the different accounts set up within your instance, and you can also see that they've been created in different ways. So there are a few different ways to create accounts within HMS. You can either do it automatically by linking to your IDP. This is the most common way to provision accounts to HMS. We do have integrations with the most common identity providers here: Google Workspace, Microsoft Entra, and Okta. And if you do have a different identity provider, you can set up a custom integration using the SCIM API available as well. So this will allow you to automatically provision users or user accounts from your IDP. I do want to highlight that these accounts that you have here are a special type of enterprise accounts at Meta. They're called Managed Meta accounts. And Managed Meta accounts are different from our regular Meta accounts that you might be used to from, say, Instagram or Facebook, where you have a Meta account. These accounts are different from our regular Meta accounts. They exist entirely within the enterprise product and are managed by the admins of the admin center here. So they're very separate from the consumer accounts that you might be familiar with. They also have additional enterprise-grade controls on them, and they meet enterprise compliance standards. While regular consumer accounts do not, these are the accounts that you'd be required to have in order to use the headsets in an enterprise environment. You can also, of course, add consumer accounts. If you allow it as an admin, the users can do that, but we'll touch on that a bit more later. Apart from the main way of getting these accounts, which is through your IDP, these can also be created by importing a CSV or XLS file that has the relevant data, which is name and email address in this case, or just by putting a name, email address, and manually creating them here one at a time. And then the user would receive an email to accept their account and log in once these have been set up. And if they're set up through your IDP, you can also set up SSO for these accounts. That's done through the Security tab, but we'll touch on that later. There are different types of accounts here as well. So some accounts have different types of admin roles available to them. So one could be a system admin, another a Quest device admin. So these admin roles give the accounts different permissions within the admin center. You can see how many users have each admin role as well, and what permissions they include. If you manage the admin role here, a system admin has a lot of permissions available to it, while other admin roles may have less. You can also create custom admin roles, and there's a lot of granularity around this. So say if you want to just create an app admin, you can select which permissions you want your admin to have for this. So say you want this person to only be able to create and manage apps. So you can create a role for this and add people to this admin role. So you won't have to give all of the entire system admin permissions to people who just need to manage apps or just need to adjust the casting sessions. So you can really have granular control over the types of permissions you're giving the users. You also don't have to give them any admin permissions. The admin permissions give them access to this admin center here, but a regular user would only have an account that they can use to use the headset itself rather than this admin center. So a user that has no admin permissions here has an account provisioned for them and an identity that they use, but they can't access admin center to change any settings. These things can all be adjusted in bulk as well. So you can create groups of, say, IT admins, put all your IT admin users there and assign their admin roles to them in bulk. There's also some other interesting information here that you can add on to them. These are not necessary, they're just for you as an admin. If it helps you, you can add location department. You can see when the account was created and by who and any status about the account itself. So which one is activated, which one has access issues. So it gives you a bit of information about the accounts within your instance. You can also see more information here where you can edit and add more details about the employee if you want. But this is all optional. For example, If you have created the first instance for your university and have basically claimed the university domain account by definition, because you were the first, the best option is to go via groups. Of course, you can give other users system admin privileges as well. So you can assign the system admin account you have. You will always have the original system admin if you were the one who created it. But you can give your IT department, for example, the system admin account and let them manage it with the same level of permissions as the originator account. In terms of how you distribute that within then groups is the best way to go. You can create groups for each department, both within the user management. And when we move into the next section for device management, you'll be able to also create groups or presets within here. So you can create a device group for each department as well. Within those groups, you can have different settings, different configurations, different roles, and you can also, for admin roles, you can assign them based on group. So for example, if you want a casting admin to only have access to certain groups, that is something that is possible. For example, you can give them access only to devices in specific groups. So if you don't want to give access to admins across the entire range of departments, you can specify which group they should be responsible for. Here, this isn't available for everything because some things like managing networks is a much higher level IT level permission. So that would be across all groups, but things that would be more granular by smaller users or individual groups, you do have that granularity available to them as well. And typically, that's what other universities are doing. Each department would have their own kind of admin user for their department that would have access to assigning users, adding apps, the entire system. And you just have to make sure that you are aligned with those admin users to make sure they don't go into your groups and make changes and only focus on their groups. Within the Devices tab is where you'll see all the headsets that you have enrolled in your instance. There's some basic information about the different headsets as well. You can add a friendly name to yours, but this is something you can or cannot do based on what you prefer. So that's just so you know which headset is which. And then there's also the serial number of the headset below. If you don't add a friendly name, it'll just show up by the serial number. I've blurred these for privacy reasons. You can also see how each headset is configured, so each one could be a bit different. For example, you might have a Quest 2 in a third-party enrollment with Microsoft Intune, a Quest Pro in individual mode, which means it's assigned to a specific account, and a Quest 3S in shared mode, which means that it's in a more kiosk mode environment where it doesn't have an identity assigned to it. And you can also see each one as in a different group. So you can create these different groups, configure them in different ways, and add headsets to them based on what your needs are for each group. You can also see the status of the headset. The one managed by a third party will always be unknown because all of the device management, once you set up a third-party enrollment, will be done by the third party. For each device, you'll see the name you've assigned, which can be modified, the serial number as a unique identifier, the configuration applied to it, the device group it belongs to if assigned, whether it's been recently active, and the last active time. By clicking on any device, you get additional details like when it was last seen, the operating system version, MAC address, battery levels for the device and controllers, and more. For each device, there's a menu where you can change the configuration, what we call device presets, reassign the group or create a new one with that device, force check-ins to push configurations faster, view device sessions, only for shared mode, which we'll cover soon, wipe the device for a remote factory reset, or release it, which factory resets and fully removes it from the platform, turning it back into a consumer device. There's also more information here. If you want to change the group, create group, assign a different preset. You can do that from here. Enrolling devices, there are a few different ways you can do that. The first and the most, well, the one that you probably use for at first is the manual enrollment through the admin center. At this point, you'll select the preset or group or configuration you want to use for the headset, and then enter the 8-digit code on the headset that's shown during setup. You can see within the headset, it will kind of look like this within the code. You'll see a screen at some point that will show your code, and you'll enter that here, and that will enroll the headset within your instance. Since most of you'll be purchasing from authorized resellers, our authorized resellers can do this enrollment step on your behalf so they can pre-enroll devices into your instance. When they're pre-enrolled, you'll be able to see them here in the Ready for Setup tab. So they're already enrolled and assigned to your MDM as a management tool. If you already have some headsets laying around that you want to add to your HMS, you'll be using this method here where you'll find the code and add it here into the Admin Center. This way, we also have our device setup app, and this is a separate app that you can download. It helps you set up your headsets in bulk, so it's a bit faster. It works through a USB connection, so basically as many USBs as you can connect to your laptop, and you'll be able to click a button and it does that enrollment for you and sets up within the selected preset. At the moment, this is only for shared mode, so for individual mode and third-party configurations, you'll still have to go through the regular process. Yet another method is logging in with one of the management accounts created from HMS. Using such an account to log in on a device automatically enrolls it, making it appear in your Managed Devices list. Pre-enrollment or point-of-sale enrollment. This isn't full enrollment, but occurs when buying new devices from approved resellers. They can pre-enroll the devices so they show up in ready for setup state in your admin center. You can apply default configurations, and for security, those devices can't be used for anything else until enrolled in your platform. As noted, it's a pre-enrollment that locks the device to your HMS instance. Once you've enrolled your headset and got it set up within HMS, you'll want to create presets for them. Presets are kind of a group or a grouping or of configuration settings that you want to put on the headsets. Device presets are a set of configurations applicable to one or multiple devices. I mention multiple because presets can be assigned individually or to groups, saving time by avoiding one-by-one setup. When creating a new preset, you'll choose between individual mode or shared mode. Let's explain these with examples. Individual mode, as the name suggests, is for specific individuals in your organization. You provide an HMS account, they log in, and the experience is similar to consumer mode. Access to operating system apps like remote display, browser, the Horizon store for installing apps if permitted, advanced settings, and so on. It's an open experience for the user. Shared mode is like a kiosk mode for MetaQuest with variations. The standard shared mode locks the device to only the applications you configure from HMS. No access to other OS apps, no advanced settings modifications, just your content. It can be used with or without an account, defaulting to no account, so no identity is needed. Enroll and it's ready. Another flavor is single app experience, a pure kiosk where one app auto starts on power on, and the user can't exit or access anything else. This is beneficial for use cases where the device is dedicated to one experience, avoiding distractions or unintended access. If you use shared mode, then you don't need an account for the headset. Assign the headsets to the shared mode preset, then they run as a shared headset. So it's based on a session. If you already have an account that was set up separately and it's not on your system, submit a support ticket through the support hub. Share that email address with them and they'll be able to look it up and see where it is and what can be done and help you with that. Now touching on networks and certificates real quick before going into individual mode. So to create a network, you go into networks here and you can see the ones already created. This is my work network and this is my home network. So my headset works wherever I am. And you can select between Wi-Fi or VPN and add those details. We do also support some enterprise-grade Wi-Fis. So you'll see these require a more complicated setup, but if your IT team is working with these Wi-Fis, they'll know how to set these up. And it's the same for any certificates that you might want for security. You can add the different types of certificates here so that your network is basically protected. We support single-file certificates or also SCEP certificates, which are dynamic, and you'll see in the details. So you can add the server URL and any information here. We handle password-based, certificate-based Wi-Fi, Anything Android supports is compatible here. Since enterprise networks often use certificates, you can deploy them through this interface too. It is possible to set up or script a headset to automatically connect to a predefined Wi-Fi system and hidden SSIDs perhaps. So that's in the Networks tab here. Going through presets, so if you create a network here, you can select the type of network you want to connect to, and you put in the details of the network itself. You create this network here, and then when you're setting up your preset, you'll be able to select that. Let's have a look at the actual presets themselves. So let's start with shared mode. Shared mode is a shared device, as mentioned. It has no identity on it, but it does still have settings that can be configured when you're creating the preset. The require account is the first one you'll see. This is set when you initially create the preset. Require account means that the session requires an account to log in. So if you have it set as off, there's no need to have an account to use this shared mode. You can also have casting switched on and offline device sessions switched off. So these are just additional permissions that you can set. You can also set which apps you want to have. You initially would be setting up apps within the admin center and then selecting them here. Files is a similar thing. You would initially be setting up the files within the file section, adding them here. And additional settings that you have for shared mode include the networks. Certificates, same thing. And then security session settings. So these are around session passcodes. So if you're not using an account for a shared mode, then you can have a passcode on it. That way, if you take off the headset, have a conversation, you want to go back to the experience, then there's a passcode there to make sure that your session is saved for you. So you can set the passcode on and off. You can also set how long the session will be available while inactive, before basically ending the session due to inactivity. So this is something you can set up from here. USB debugging is for developer accounts, so it's probably less relevant here, but it just allows you to connect the headset to the laptop and get debugging logs and access any ADB features or commands that you might want to do as a developer. USB file transfer is the same also for developers, and you can also set the OS updates from here. So you can decide what kind of a OS update schedule you want. Automatic is as soon as available. Windowed is between a certain time so that it doesn't do OS updates in the middle of use in the middle of the day and saves them for maybe in the afternoon or the evening. In terms of the device experience in shared mode, it has to go through a few initiation steps when you first enter the session because the user is assumed to be new if they don't have an account. They haven't gone through all the initiation steps, so there's a bit of an intro to each shared mode session to acquaint the user with the headset and the controllers. So you can choose as an admin what you want that intro to include. You can choose if you want the session to be controller-based or just hand tracking, confirm the controllers are awake, adjust the device fit and launch the tutorial. So you can switch these on and off based on the intro experience that you want your users to have. We also have a setting for single app mode. This is if you have just one app on the shared mode headset and you want it to launch automatically as they end the session intro. So they won't even have the option of selecting from the apps that are available. It'll just automatically go into the single app experience. You can add a custom logo if you want. You can do that from here. You can also set some default settings, like if you want to start up in pass-through rather than VR home, you can do that from here. And also set up a stationary boundary by default. And if you do that, the user won't have to set their own boundary. They'll by default have a stationary boundary, which is good for a sitting down experiences. So if the experience you have is a sit-down experience, you can just select this and it won't ask the user to create their own boundary as part of the intro. As an admin, you can also limit access to various settings on the headset to stop the user from being able to use them. So if you want to stop the user from having access to boundary or Wi-Fi or software updates or USB debugging, you can set all of that here. You can also set an admin passcode to put them behind a passcode. So you, as the admin, if you need to access any of these on the day, can still access them using an admin passcode. A new feature allows deploying apps like dynamic languages to account-free shared mode, enabling use without any account and minimizing logins. This is amazing for efficiency. I mentioned casting before as the tool that you can use to be able to see what's on the headset within the admin center. So as an admin, if you want to have visibility of what your users are seeing, you can either use the casting link for the organization and connect that, or more commonly, the Facilitator suite. So Facilitator suite allows you as an admin to start casts within any of the headsets within your remit as the admin. So if you're only allowed to access a certain group, you'll only see that group here. And so you can initiate a cast and view multiple different headsets from one place within Facilitator suite. The user, if it's an individual mode user, or if it's a shared mode user that's not in an education instance, they will need to accept the cast on their end. But you can initiate it from here, and then all of the cast will appear here as kind of a block each one, and you'll be able to see what's going on all the different headsets within your instance. Facilitator Suite allows casting up to 50 devices simultaneously in tiles. Select and start. It also launches apps files remotely. So there are a few different ways of getting apps. The Managed App Store is available to admins within the admin center and has a selection of apps that make sense for businesses or education providers. So you can select an app from here, and then from there, you can assign it to various groups or presets. You can also choose the type of update settings you want for the app. So say, let's go with automatic, and you can preset the permissions. So by presetting or pre-accepting any permissions, it means that the user on the other end of the headset won't have to accept the permissions when they open the app. This is especially relevant in shared mode, where the permission can be granted, but then the next session, they have to re-accept it every time. So you can auto-grant these permissions. Once you've added the app to your app list, you can then assign it from here to any groups or presets. And so this is a way for you to centrally distribute apps other than the store. You can also add an externally hosted app if you have the link to the APK file. So if this is an app that you own and that you've hosted somewhere in your cloud, you can put the link here and you can add the app directly from an APK file there, and it'll show up within your apps, or you can connect to any developers that you are speaking to. If you have an existing relationship with any ISVs or app developers, you can link their developer center to your HMS instance, and then they'll be able to push their apps directly to you and any updates into your instance. And that will also be available here for you to add to your headsets. So there's a few different ways of getting content. As for dynamic languages, our sponsor, this VR language learning app with virtual field trips and cultural studies is a fantastic example of what's available on the Managed App Store. It's perfect for schools, colleges, or businesses looking to enhance immersive education or employee training. With the recent updates, you can now deploy it seamlessly to shared mode devices without needing accounts, making it even easier to integrate into your setup. Everyone should try the free demo. It's an excellent tool for transforming how you approach language and cultural learning in VR. Let's look at setting policies, security settings, and analytics to wrap up. And this is to add any kind of policies of if this is detected or if this happens, do this kind of configurations. So say malware detection. So if malware is detected, you can add an action based on that to wipe the device. You can also notify any admins or anyone else in the organization and choose where you want to assign this policy to. So you do have the option of creating different policies based on different things and making sure that if anything suspicious is happening with your headsets, the right actions are being taken to protect your networks, your data, and your users. SSO can be connected through this tab, and you can also set up a two-factor authentication here as well. Domain verification would also happen here, so if you want to verify the domain, you can do that from here. Once a domain is verified, it can't be used to create any more HMS instances, so you've basically claimed this domain for this instance, once you've verified it as yours. Insights exist just to give you some information about how your headsets are being used within the org. In the Highlights tab, you can see an overview of the different tabs here, and it gives you maybe accounts at risk to keep an eye on monthly active devices, what's going on with your apps, which ones are most installed, so you can kind of see a high-level overview of what's going on. You can see information about people, how many accounts are added, how many are activated, where they stand, who you might need to reach out to claim accounts. You can also, of course, export any of this data. Devices is more about your headset use, which ones need OS updates, battery and storage space on them, which ones are using which networks, when they were last seen. You can see information about our apps, how they're being used, which are being installed, what's more common amongst your users, and any security data here as well. Who's set up their 2FA if it's required, as part of the policies, what method they used. So all sorts of information as well. In closing, this video is sponsored by Dynamic Languages, available for free. Try the demo today, book a discovery call, and find out more about implementing this in your school, college, or business on our website, with the link in the description. Transform your VR learning experience now. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to travel the world and learn with Dynamic Languages.